Now you can get yourself a lot of import gaming monitors that look very interesting. The specs of them, great, but do they actually check out? Are they any good? So this particular model here comes from Alibaba. It's from an ODM. The company's called CN Hope Star, and this is their 35-inch ultra-wide gaming monitor. It has an R1800 curvature to the screen, and it does have a 21:9 aspect ratio, and the resolution is 3440 by 1440, which is common. Now the default refresh rate on this panel is 144 Hz, but you can overclock it, overdrive it to 180 Hz. The best part about this is that it does support NVIDIA G-Sync, AMD FreeSync too, both of them, and it does have slim bezels. Anti-glare coating, up to 350 nits brightness is their claim, HDR400 support, and the brightness should be, well, maximum around 350 nits. So it looks very promising. So let's find out if this 35-inch gaming ultra-wide panel is any good. In the box, you'll find three parts to the stand. So we have the main stand. This is the mounting bracket, which you screw on, that then goes onto the back of the monitor, and then the base itself right here. Now there is a hook that you can slot onto the back of it. That is just for cable management. And then you do have some extenders. So these four screws here are extenders, so the monitor can be mounted to a VESA mount bracket. So if you wanted to do that, you're able to, which is good. We've got an EU power cable, a display cable, and then they do include some screws for the stand. You can see we do have some RGB strips here on the back, and I'll show you once I've got it all set up and powered on, of course. So there are the 4 points there to mount those extenders for VESA mounting it, and then the stand itself, that clips in to the back here. So you pop it in this part first. There is this little button there that you can press in, so it just slots in like so, and then you've got to clip it down. And you'll hear a click noise. Then for the ports on the back of it, we have an audio out 3.5mm, two display ports, which are DisplayPort 1.4 spec, and then two HDMI 2.0 ports. On the underside of the right of the screen, we've got some buttons here. So one is our power button, then four other buttons there to control that on-screen menu, which I'll run through now. So cycling through the buttons, we've got our input source options there, the two display ports, two HDMI ports, brightness and contrast, color settings, you can tweak and adjust that. Picture quality settings there too. Display, so you're able to go through the aspect ratios there to have it normal, or you can change that, and the LED mode too with it. Audio, so there's no actual speakers built into this model here, at least I can't get any sound out of it. I don't think it has speakers, so that's not actually an issue there. Multi-window's grayed out at the moment, so if I do plug in another source, I would be able to run that. You can run two windows, have it split screen. On-screen display options, and then other, we just get a few other settings in here. Most important is the adaptive sync one, and HDR2, you can turn that on from here. This monitor has a 15-degree swivel with the base, which is quite sturdy too, so you can go 15 degrees both left and right. We have height adjustment, which is 95mm, okay, that you can move that up and down, and there is some tilt to the screen too. So you can tilt it to 2.5 to 17 degrees. So that's great. It's pretty similar to other monitors there that I have covered, that you're able to tilt it, angle the screen around to get it in the perfect position for you. So the screen here is 35 inches. It's a VA panel. The curvature to it is R1800. So typical to other gaming monitors out there. HDR400 support. The resolution is 3440 by 1440p. So it is an 8-bit panel, and it can display 16.7 million colors. The panel response time is 20 milliseconds with a response time of 1 millisecond, but that is the MPRT, so moving picture response time. Our top and then the left and right bezels, they are quite slim, so they do look very good with this monitor. We don't have a huge bezel. The only real noticeable bezel is down the bottom of this monitor. That's the one that stands out, but I do like how slim these bezels are. Now let's take a look at what kind of color gamut you can expect out of this panel. So I'm using my Spider X Pro here. Then these are the results I managed to get out of my panel. Now it will vary from panel to panel, of course, with these VA panels. So 100% sRGB coverage. Then we have NTSC, which this is 82%, Adobe RGB 86%, and P3, which is 92% of P3. So this, for a gaming monitor, is actually pretty good and a lot better than I thought it was going to be. So the maximum brightness they claim is going to be about 350 nits between 300, which is the minimum. Now with my unit here, I've measured it to be 335 nits. And of course, as mentioned, it's got that anti-glare coating. So indoors, it looks fine, it's bright enough. Then the light leakage on this panel, you can see there is a little bit here. Now I'm just displaying a complete black image and I've turned up the ISO of my camera so we can see it a little bit better. So the bottom right hand side, there is a little bit of light leakage there, and then the top left, but it's very minimal, and I only see this with just black images like it is now. That's the only time you're going to see this light leakage from this VA panel. And because of how wide the screen is, of course, it's great for productivity, so I can easily have side-by-side two panels, and it does look good. So I've got Steam open here, I can see all of my library, scroll through that, and then over on this side I've got Chrome opened with my YouTube channel, and you're able to run just these side-by-side applications there, and that's really good if you're multitasking like this. You can just get so much more work done. For example, you can have on the right side spreadsheets and emails, on the left, you get the idea. So it's not just for gaming, it's also good for productivity. In order to enable the 80 Hz mode, you do need to go through the on-screen menu, enable overdrive, and it will go from the standard 144 Hz refresh rate up to 180 now. So it does have a very good response time. Well, their claim is the 1 milliseconds moving picture response time, and I've not had any problems with the response time at all. But the actual panel itself, without the overdrive model on, the panel response is 20 milliseconds there. Now you can see the top line, that is our 180 frames per second, and movement and everything looks good. But I have noticed that putting it onto the 180 Hz mode, it does not seem as sharp as 144 Hz. So whether or not that trade-off is worth it depends on the kind of frame rates you want to run. If you do really need in games 180 Hz, by all means run it. But I would be quite happy with actually just 144 Hz. What about ghosting? Do you see any of that? Like if I move anything around, especially in Windows here, panels from one side or about very quickly, I don't see any lag issues, any latency problems, any ghosting coming through with this VA panel. Now the good news is with this monitor, it does support G-Sync and FreeSync, but you need to enable it. So you go into the on-screen display here, in Other, see this, Adaptive Sync. You need to turn Adaptive Sync on, and then FreeSync and G-Sync will work. And these are the options that I do get. So I can enable the G-Sync full compatibility here to have it on, full screen mode and full screen and even windowed mode there. So that's typical. I even get these options with my LG C1, which is an OLED 4K 120 Hz screen. So great to see this on a more affordable monitor. So we've got G-Sync and then FreeSync support if you happen to have an AMD card. Finally, gaming performance. Just want to point out here that I am in the highest refresh rate possible, 180 Hz, the overdrive mode, and I do have the 3440 by 1440p selected as the max native screen resolution, and then the native 21 by 9 aspect ratio. But you can see that either side, on the left and the right here, that we do have those black borders, but that's normal. A lot of titles will still have the menus in 16 by 9, but then when you get into game, as I'll show you now, that is, all right, there you go. That is now at our 21 by 9 aspect ratio, and it looks very good. Now I've got VSync off, and this graphics card that I am using, unfortunately, doesn't quite have the power to be able to run this title, Far Cry 6, at 180 frames per second. So you do need a very potent card, really, to be able to get, with the newer titles at least, a constant, steady 180 frames per second. You really do need something like an RTX 3080, or even a 3090 with such a demanding game. Depends on, of course, your graphic settings that you do like. So there should be some enemies ahead. Just to point out, when I quickly look around here, I'm not seeing any screen tearing, any issues like that. And what about the input latency too? So when I fire, that's coming through instantly. I'm not seeing any noticeable delay there at all with that. There just should be some enemy soldiers around here, but they seem to have disappeared. No, there's no one around here. But it is very good. So this is what the screen is all about. With this 21 by 9 aspect ratio, it's super immersive. It looks really good, especially for titles like this. And then to answer that question I asked at the start, and the title of the video, is it any good? The answer is yes, it is. And I love it when I do test out products like this, which I'm really unsure of. I thought that, well, it might not actually be that good at all. Turns out it's a great ultra-wide gaming monitor. Very, very good, and I'm impressed with the overall performance of it. You've got the 180 Hertz, the overdrive mode. The only thing is I have noticed, not in games, but in the desktop area, that text doesn't look quite as sharp at 180 Hertz compared to 144 Hertz, which is the default. So you're overdriving the panel, getting that increased refresh rate there. The 180 is quite good, it's quite fast. And I know, yes, there are 200 Hertz screens out there with the same resolution that are ultra wides. The 35 inches, huge size, big, immersive size to it. And of course, you've got all your typical adjustments with that stand, which is very sturdy. So we've got the 15 degrees left and right swivel, that's in the lowest position now. And then you can raise it up about that high there too, which is, it's a good overall height to it. And then you're able to angle it up or down. Now the anti-glare coating on this display does make it very practical. It's less prone to reflections. And the inwards curvature to it, that R1800, means that it does reflect a little bit less than, again, because of the curvature. It's not a flat panel which would tend to reflect more. Now, although I can't measure the exact response times of this screen, I'm not able to do that, I'm not having any problems at all with input lag and then response times from this panel. It looks great. There's no noticeable tearing here or any issues at all. And I'm only just using an RTX 3070 Ti here. I know some people are going to say in the comments, what do you mean only? I've got a 1050 Ti or something like that. I know, but still, you do need quite a demanding GPU to run modern titles like Far Cry 6 that I have here at a really high frames per second. To try and match or get close to 180 frames per second, even on low settings, you're probably going to need an RTX 3080 to be able to do that with a screen like this. But when you game at 180 Hertz here compared to say 60, wow, do you notice that difference? Everything's so smooth, it's fluid. And as soon as I press everything, it's coming through fine. There's no input lag or any problems like that. So the things that I don't like about this monitor, well, not really that much at all. The supposed RGB lighting on the back isn't RGB. It's just red only. The on-screen menu to go through those are always kind of frustrating and annoying to use. I find it a little bit fiddly, but it's got plenty of settings that we do need in there, which is good. And the other is there does not seem to be any built-in speakers at all. Well, I can't get any audio out of it. I don't think it's got speakers in. To be honest, most monitor speakers are garbage, so we're not missing out there anyway. You'd use your own speakers, your own headphones. Anyway, so there we go. I took a risk here, and I can thankfully say that it is actually a good monitor. So you can import these cheaper ultra-wides, and some of them, like this model here, definitely is a great screen. So thanks a lot for watching this review of this 35-inch ultra-wide 180 Hertz gaming monitor.